There's the clip.
So hello, everybody. My name is Christy Reyes, and I am a non-credit ESL instructor at MiraCosta College in our non-credit program there. And I'm also an OTAN subject matter expert. So welcome. And I do have 2 certifications for teaching online, one from @ONE, which is through the Chancellor's Office of the California Community Colleges, and also the TESOL international certification for online teaching. And Katrina, do you want to?
Okay, sure. My name is Katrina Tamura, and I am also a non-credit ESL teacher. I teach with Palomar College and MiraCosta College. And I am happy to be here today to present alongside Christy.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and get started right away. Today, we're going to have a poll in just a moment, just to find out, now that, well, we're not going back to completely normal. It's a new normal, but we're really interested in at your school, your current modalities. If you are an instructor, how are you teaching these days? If you're not an instructor, maybe you can let us know the different types of modalities of how instruction is being offered at your agency. We're going to have, hopefully you're ready to use your fingers and participate in the chat with a lot of questions. We want this to be interactive. So we're gonna have some questions to talk about gauging good online teaching. And then we're gonna go over 5 tips. These are based on research and evidence and really make for solid teaching online. We'll show a few examples from our instruction, and we'll ask you also to please share and participate. I think that's one of the greatest things of attending summits and conferences is you don't only learn from the presenters, you learn from the other attendees. Then we'll have a chance for you to reflect and a brief wrap up. So by the end of this hour together, we hope you'll be able to implement either a big or small change that can improve the online instruction you provide so that students will stick around, because really learning online, especially if it's asynchronous online, can be a lonely, isolating experience, but there are things you can do. So that's what we'll be covering today.
Okay, so we'd like to find out how you are currently teaching. What is your current teaching modality? We know some people are fully in person at this point. Some are fully asynchronous online. Some are fully synchronous online, like maybe you meet your students in Zoom. Some are hybrid in person and async online, or maybe hybrid in person, synchronous online, or hybrid synchronous online and asynchronous online, or some other combination. I know I've done quite a few of these combinations over the past few years. I've been online in Zoom, fully in Zoom. I've been asynchronous with Zoom office hours. I've been hybrid. I've been HyFlex. I've been hybrid in Zoom and online. There's so many combinations these days. What are you doing?
Okay, so I'll give you just about 5 to 10 more seconds to answer the poll, and I'll share the results. Pretty much as I suspected, but since we don't have everyone participating, it'd be great if you could all participate in the poll, then we could get a better picture. So I'm counting down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results with you here. So one of you is teaching fully in person, and maybe you're here because you want to learn about teaching online. Also, one of you is teaching fully asynchronous. So that means students don't meet with you on Zoom. They're just going into your learning management system, whether that's I know in LAUSD, that's Schoology. For the community colleges, that's Canvas. Some adult schools may be using Google Classroom. Fully synchronous online, that means you're, it looks like 3 of you, 25% are just doing Zoom, or maybe it's Google Teams or some other video conferencing. 2 of you are doing hybrid, in-person and asynchronous. That's what I'm doing too. So, you know, I've done that, as well as hybrid, in-person and synchronous online. We have a tie there for 17%. Hybrid, synchronous online and asynchronous online, just 1. And other shared in the chat, teaching online, in person and online individually. Wow, wonderful. So you can see we're doing all we can, aren't we, to try to accommodate our students. So a silver lining of the pandemic is we did learn, our students are gaining those technical skills, and we're learning to teach online. Now, what do we need to do? Teach online better. So with that, we have some questions for you. Have you ever taken an online course before? Can you type yes or no in the chat, please? Okay. Looks like many of you have. That's great, because that really helps you see from the student's viewpoint what is effective and what isn't, and how it can be a feeling of where's the instructor? Where are my fellow students? So hopefully you've learned from that experience, hopefully from some really great instructors, what humanizing online instruction is all about. So let me follow up with another question, which is, for those of you who have taken an online course and all of you said yes, what was the best part of it? Give you a moment to think about that. And I'm predicting it's going to be what our students would say as well. We're all adults. Convenience and flexibility, working at your own pace, no travel time, saves gas money, not having to go to the school, the content and ability to work when you could. Isn't that what all of our students say too? Exactly. So now think about this. What was the worst part? No instructor, home distractions, no collaborations. When you had questions, you were like, where is the teacher? Where am I going to get an answer? Sometimes you got lost and had little interaction with other students, staying motivated, probably because of all of those reasons, or because there wasn't a teacher there in your face, right? Could be boring and lonely. So you identified exactly the things we're going to be covering. One last question then. So thinking of the positives, what do you think is the #1 key to teaching a successful online course? Some people had good experiences, okay. What is fun and interactive? Engagement, personal engagement, keeping the students motivated, the relationships. And so this is our challenge, isn't it? Because what we do in adult ed in California so well, we're the best. I'm telling you, we are the best. I've seen other states, they're good, but we're the best, is what we have come to do so well in the four-walled classroom. Now we need to somehow figure out how we can translate that to the online environment. And there are ways, but you have identified all the important things that we're going to be covering. So turn it over to you, Katrina.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is onboarding. And onboarding is crucial, right, to student success. What do you think I mean by onboarding? What would your onboarding strategies be? What do you use? If you can type that into chat. What are onboarding strategies that you use? Right, I don't see a lot of answers in the chat, so okay, a welcome letter, there you go, technical info, orientation, call each one of your students, videos, sending out videos. All right, so yeah, to-do lists organized by month. All right. So onboarding really is about getting that information out to your students. And it's telling them and helping them start your course, right? Because some people, maybe they've never taken an online class before. They don't know how to do it. They don't know when it's going to happen. They don't know what to expect. So we need to make sure that we send that information to them. And you can do that with a welcome letter, and you can email this to them, right? Or you can post it in your learning management system. I am also certified in online teaching and design through @ONE. And in their course, in their 10-10-10 course, they suggest starting the onboarding process and onboarding planning about 2 weeks before the start of the course. One of the things you can do is send if you're having Zoom meetings, give them the information that they need, tell them when the start date of the course is, when your LMS is going to open, and really what to expect. You can send a welcome video. A welcome video, by that I mean a personalized video that talks about yourself, really just telling them who you are so that they know you're not a robot. So this is an example of mine.
My name is Katrina Tamura. I will be your teacher this fall. This is me, and this is my Bitmoji. Do you have a Bitmoji? We look forward to working with you this fall. Here is a little information about me and how I became an ESL teacher. I started teaching ESL as a volunteer. I was in high school. This is me with my very first ESL class. After high school, I went to Querétaro, Mexico, and studied Spanish and communications at the university. Being an international student wasn't easy, but I learned a lot, and I really enjoyed my time there. After college, I decided I wanted to be an ESL teacher, so I went to Shandong, China, and taught at Yantai University for 1 year. I lived in a small apartment in the Foreigners Hotel on campus. I worked with juniors, seniors, and freshmen. I also got to travel a lot, and I learned a lot about China. I got the opportunity to work with Chinese colleagues, other teachers, and we exchanged ideas and came up with new ways to teach. Even though these may seem like distant memories in my photo book, they're not. They're really very important experiences that shaped how I teach and how I learn. Although we're not going to be meeting face-to-face or in person, I want you to know that I'm here for you, and I will be in Zoom, I will be in Canvas, and I'm going to be here for you this term. So please reach out when you need me, because I really enjoy working with students, and I look forward to working with you.
Okay, so this one is different than what you would find in when students arrive in your learning management system. That one would be the how to navigate the course, right? That you need that one, but also a simple video that says something about you and says, hey, I'm real.
I love that video, Katrina. I think, our students, when they're in person, they look and peek in our classroom and they ask other students about us. But when it's the classes online, they don't get to see us until maybe that first Zoom meeting, or if it's a fully asynchronous course, maybe not at all. So we need to let them show that we're real people, right? So a second thing that you should do as part of the onboarding process before the class begins is to send out a liquid syllabus. Can you share in the chat, are you familiar with the term liquid syllabus? You can type yes or no. Okay, thank you, Tanya. I figured you would. Okay, a couple of you know. So you learned something new within the first few slides here. A liquid syllabus is different from that paper, maybe a PDF or a Word file. You know, if you're in a community college, you have to give a syllabus to your students and they're public record. If you're in adult school, maybe there are different types of policies about the syllabus, but our syllabi, you know, they're kind of dry and boring, the ones that we have to turn in. A liquid syllabus is more interactive. It gives the students a glimpse into the course, a preview. It has hyperlinks. It can have embedded video, that video that Katrina made to welcome, the video tutorial, how to enter the Canvas or Schoology or whatever LMS. All of that can be on your syllabus, but not just a click and you exit into a new page. It can be embedded. So here on the right side, I have a screenshot from my summer syllabus, liquid syllabus, and I won't show you all of it, but it has hyperlinks. Students could go there and they click, and that's where they can always remember the Zoom link. I created that one with Smore. Are you familiar with Smore, S-M-O-R-E? It's a website more for creating newsletters, but I love it because they have easy templates. And all I need to do is, you know, click and type, and it's so easy to use. It is free, like up to a certain point. So it's a great way because it looks great on a phone, on a tablet or computer. To try a liquid syllabus for my course, otherwise on Google Sites, because then I could easily change with some more. Once it's published, I only have a little bit of time to edit and that's it. You know, that's kind of it. But I can always come back to a Google site. Now, my audience, I teach a higher level, pretty advanced ESL students. They are professionals, a lot of them from their countries. So you can see my content has a lot of text. If you're teaching, for example, low-level literacy ESL, you want a lot more imagery based. But here's a welcome video. They can see a little bit about me and my family and what we like to do. I'm a real person. Then I have different tabs for what they're going to learn in the class materials, links to the online tools, and the policies. So you can see they can play around. It's not just a PDF that they download and look at. It has more interactivity, and they get to know you, the teacher, and learn a little bit about what they're going to learn in the class. And so Katrina mentioned too, and many of you identified in the chat, that onboarding should also include some tutorials for using the learning management system. Now, of course, you can look on Google, on YouTube, or you know, we use Canvas at my school, like many community colleges, and they have wonderful tutorials for students. But it's better if you make it. Why? It's your voice. As you're showing students how to enter into the Canvas course is going to look more familiar because it's your Canvas course or your LMS. So there are many tools for creating those screencasts. Probably you've heard of Screencast-O-Matic. I like to use Loom. You could even open up your Zoom and start recording, and the transcripts will be provided as well, and send that out. So that's a little bit about onboarding. A couple more things would be that in your welcome email or on your liquid syllabus, again, a lot of our adult students may not be familiar with online learning, especially the asynchronous part and the time it takes. Think about, so a couple of you mentioned that the challenging part for you when you were taking online courses before was staying motivated. And there seems to be this perception that studying online, while it's very convenient, it doesn't take as much time, for example. And, I have this online homework to do. I'll wait till Sunday night. So we need to really help students set up and make the expectations and time requirements clear. So I include in my welcome email in the onboarding about the online study, because my class is hybrid. They are expected to go into the LMS and do 25 to 50% of the coursework. So I say you will need to complete 6 hours of study and classwork each week using Canvas. Here's the link. You can study anytime, anywhere, but you will have work to do independently on your own. And then I tell them a little bit about what the types of activities they do online. Like, since I'm teaching ESL, speaking and pronunciation, listening and note taking, some reading and grammar and vocabulary practice, and of course, discussions and writing assignments and quizzes. And we're going to talk about, having your modules set up in a moment, but letting them know, where do I start? So your tutorial that you create, not only how to enter, but where to start would be important. Some reading that I've done, a couple of books that I really recommend. One is by Darby Flowers, Small Teaching, and Online Instruction. And what's really recommended, I'm sure that goal setting is one of the recommended best practices for andragogy for teaching adults. But what you can do to make sure that students understand the time commitment to online study is have them write a goal statement or fill out a form, like a Google form or a survey in your LMS, just checking off, yes, I understand that I need to go independently online this many of hours, and also have their goal statement, just to make it clear, because when I first started teaching hybrid, I think it was back in 2015, that was my big fear, is that I created all this online material and then students wouldn't do it. But the engagement is the really big piece too. So making sure students understand the time commitment, but also making sure that your assignments are not just, drill, that they're connecting with you, with other students. Finally, I saw one of you mentioned in the chat that somehow getting to know a little bit about students' technology skills and things like that. So both Katrina and I like to send out, before the class begins, an intake survey. So find out, why are you taking this class, and kind of connect that to their goals again, asking them if they have family or other dependents that will maybe pull them away from the class. What are their other obligations? Are they working? What other classes they have taken? Will they be connecting to the class on a phone, a tablet, a laptop, a computer? Do they use the Google Suite? Do they use Office? What different types of computer software programs do they already know how to use or have access to? Then oh, okay, I understand that Maria does not have any experience with computers. I don't want her to drop this class. I'm going to reach out specifically and make sure that, maybe I meet with her one-to-one, and so she doesn't get too intimidated, right? So, okay.
So another tip that we have for you is to be present in the course, and to be obviously so. Okay, so teacher presence in the course must be evident. Students need to know that you're there. So how and where do students see you in your learning management system, or in the synchronous class meeting, if you teach synchronous online classes? Where do people, or where do students meet with you? Where do they know? How can they find out more about you and chat with you and ask you questions? So please share that in chat. Okay, you have live sessions, so you just meet with them every day in your Google Classroom. Okay, so in the Google Classroom, like how are they meeting you? Do you chat with them? Are you in video or something? How are you meeting? Okay, Zoom, email, phone calls, on site. You have videos posted. Okay,
Right.
right. So students students need to know that their teachers are in the course. So of course you can post videos, you can post photos, you can post all of your contact information, right? So on the home page, like my welcome page, I use a page as my my home page. So when students come in, they see a nice big welcome, right? And they know which course they're in. And then they have a welcome video, shows them how to use the course that I've created for them. And then it tells them how they can email me, how they can call me, how they can leave a message for me, how they can join my Zoom room, and then how to get started. So it's really important to have all of that information really easily available. If they need to reach out, they shouldn't have to look up the information about how to contact you. It should be very evident and very present in your course. So it is recommended that we have so many different ways to make a homepage. And I mean, some people just put modules as their homepage. Some people will just list a bunch of buttons. But Christy and I would really recommend that you put your contact information and create a welcome page instead of just like a base page where they come and click on some links, which isn't very personal. It's not very humanized. So teacher presence on the homepage is a big tip that we can give you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very camera shy, but students need to see you. They need to see your face on the homepage. So thank you, Katrina. I saw a couple of you mentioned in discussions. We're going to get to that too. So using Canvas, I'm not as familiar with Google Classroom, but in Canvas, for example, there is a place where you set up your profile, and I send out instructions as part of the onboarding as well for students to go into Canvas and set up their profile. So I tell them they don't have to put a picture of themselves, though it would be nice. And I put my picture there. I also put a little biography. I'm not big into social media, but I put my LinkedIn page and things like that. And so then when I'm participating in discussions and sending out announcements, there's my little picture right next to it. So it's a little bit more humanizing than just some text, right? They see, that's the teacher sending this. So you can see that in the announcements on the right, there's a of the photo as well. So that's really important as well, to have teacher presence by setting up a profile and then making sure that it's visible every time you're participating in discussions and things like that.
Okay, another way you can be present in your course is by participating in it. Participate and model responses and discussions. Especially, I have ESL students are my student group, and they are low, intermediate, and they often need some support, just a little example for each assignment. So at the beginning, I might show them how to insert audio files, insert picture files into a discussion thread, and then kind of show them what I expect from them. If it's going to be a very developed, very full response, or if they just need to write a couple lines to talk about themselves or practice a certain verb form or tense. Students do copy you, hopefully not verbatim, but they will if you model for them, they will copy what you're doing, and then they'll eventually make it their own, and they'll start having discussions with each other based on what you have modeled for them. And those do get fuller and richer each time students give it a try. So if you are in the course and you are replying and liking and talking and showing them what they should do in a discussion board, I think it's a very important part of being present in the course. And if you go to the next page, it can be something really super simple, okay? Like this, you could insert some sort of Bitmoji or a little picture, some sort of response so that they see that you're there. It doesn't have to be a really big response, but just something to let students know that you're there. So you can choose a few of them to make small responses to, and then pick a few to make a larger, fuller response to, just so that students do see that you're present. In your emails, you can send out emails and follow a certain format. You can publish that format for students so that they know how they should, what format they should use when they're communicating with you. You can do the same thing for voicemails and things. So anything you expect a student to do, you should model it first and then do it throughout the course. So as you can see, the discussions get richer and fuller, and students start sharing their opinions and modeling what you have, how you have responded in previous discussions or in previous emails.
So yes, thank you. So I'm pretty sure based on the questions we asked at the beginning that you would all agree the teacher needs to be in the room. You know, when we're teaching in person, we don't come in and read the agenda and then leave for 3 hours. So we need to be always present and participating in the LMS and of course in Zoom too, if you're teaching synchronously online. So tip number 3 of the 5, students need to have regular, effective teacher to student contact, including timely and constructive feedback. First, that word timely can be very relative and constructive feedback, you know, like it depends completely on the type of student task or assessment or assignment that you are having students do. But we would like you to share in the chat, how do you ensure regular teacher to student contact, whether you are teaching with your LMS in that environment and or in your video conferencing, your live sessions? How do you make sure that every student is getting some attention from you? Can you share in the chat, please? I think you're probably typing, pondering and typing. Email, remind, and Google Meet messaging. Yes, thank you, Nancy. Anybody else? Announcements, yes. Okay. All right. And second question is, well, how do you define timely? Calling on them, and yes. Direct verbal feedback during the Zoom sessions. Set myself a weekly time. Yes, you have to set just like students have to set aside their weekly time, especially to do asynchronous online work. We need to set a time to do all of that feedback on written assignments, which can be so time consuming, but so important and valuable for our students. Personally greet all students. Make sure everyone participates, and there are lots of ways to do that, right? Call, email, remind, timely. If my class meets weekly, Maggie says, give feedback within 1 week. Yes, weekly responses. I think that's a great point. Timely kind of depends on the assignment. If you have 30 students and they've all turned in a writing assignment, I don't know if you've had this. I have students, I give the assignment and that night, did you check my assignment yet? So communicating when you will be able to check that, because that is very frustrating. As some of you mentioned, if you submit something online and it's just sitting there and you don't get any feedback. So of course, giving feedback, but letting students know, I'm not going to be able to get to your writing until Sunday. So yeah. And how do you provide constructive feedback in the online environment? So I think someone said earlier, feedback on the written assignments, anything else, giving constructive feedback, whether that's in the LMS, asynchronous, environment, or in Zoom or video web conferencing. When you want to give a student some feedback, I'm sure you don't call them out and embarrass them and say, right? But how do you do that? If anyone wants to share. We're going to go ahead and move on. So this is a really recommended best practice is let your students know upfront in your syllabus. If you're teaching live, tell them that first week, this is my communication policy. This is how you can contact me, and this is how soon you can receive a response. So this is mine. At our we have an instant messaging app that is available also in Canvas called Pronto. Now you could use Remind or Google Voice, and we'll talk about texting in just a moment, but I tell students that they can message me in Pronto, email me, or call me anytime they have a question or comment. If they call, they need to leave a message with their first and last name. Sometimes they must think I'm psychic, and I can reckon, probably you've experienced this teaching in Zoom. You get to know their voices really well when they don't turn on their cameras, but remind them to how to make a proper phone call. Leave your question or comment, and how do you want me to respond back? Do you want me to call you? Do you want me just to respond by email? And I will reply to your questions within 24 hours, except on holidays. So whatever your communication policy is, may be different from mine, but let students know so that they're not just wondering, is there a teacher here? I sent a question and I'm not getting any response. Someone mentioned, quite a few of you, texting, right? Using Remind. Oh, thank you, Tanya. I'm going to get to that. Okay. So there's been a lot of research. There was first, quite a few years back now, research from the UK in a program for adults. It was where they sent out regular text messages from the college, and it really improved persistence. Now, those were on-ground face-to-face classes. And recently, LINCS, are you all familiar with LINCS? Can you type yes or no in the chat? LINCS in August, okay, you can do a search, just type in Google LINCS, Technology-Based Coaching and Adult Education Toolkit. LINCS is kind of the larger body that is under OCTE, okay, the Office of Career and Technical Education for the federal government Department of Education. And they have a lot of great resources there. And in 2012, I attended a webinar. This was a study in many different adult schools across the United States. They did this strategic texting to students, and it kept students motivated. It kept students persisting. They didn't drop. So this is, we know all of our students are like, they have their phones with them. They even sleep with them. So thank you, Anna. We should exploit this, right? Now, that doesn't mean texting your students necessarily every single day. This means being strategic. So I like to use Pronto because there's no telephone number exchanged. They don't know my phone number. Maybe you're fine with students knowing your cell phone number, but at my college, we are told no. It is a liability issue. As public, employees, if something were to happen with that student or with us legally, all of our text messages could be subpoenaed. You don't want that to happen. You don't want your private life. So use Remind, use whatever source that doesn't use your cell phone number. I recommend, okay? Now, in online education, have you heard of this term nudge or nudging? Can you type yes or no in the chat? Okay, you've learned a new term. That goes along with online instruction, but it's perfect for any instruction. Nudging is when you start to notice, hey, Katrina didn't show up for Zoom today. Oh wait, she didn't come to class 2 times in a row. And I put in the syllabus and I explained that students need to contact me if they're going to be absent, and I haven't heard from her. So as soon as you start to see irregular attendance patterns in your video conferencing, or students are not starting to turn in work in the LMS, you give them a little nudge by texting them, by emailing. My students don't read their email, I don't think, but phone call. One of you mentioned good old-fashioned phone call. Hopefully they don't have caller ID, but good old-fashioned phone call. When I do this, I really personally don't like talking on the phone, but when I have done this, students will either come back to class and never miss again and do all their work and succeed in the class with flying colors because they know the teacher cares and notices that they're not there. Or I find out that they have some unsurmountable barrier at this time. So I talk to them about, it's okay. You can stop out now. Here's how you come back. When you're ready to come back, we're ready to bring you back. We welcome you with open arms. So anyway, yeah, definitely texting is a good technology to leverage.
When you're giving students feedback, it's important to be timely and constructive. And I always like to add in there respectful. Remember, this is their work. They've spent time on it. They've put their frustration and their hopes, maybe their dreams, into doing their work because they want to accomplish something in life. So when we give feedback, we need to, be respectful. And one way you can do that is through a personalized message. And you can take the time to tell them what they've done right and also what they need to improve on. And you can also include video feedback. I saw Tanya in the comments mentioning that she does this. She leaves a voice message, and you can leave voice messages. You can use, if you go to the next page, you can use a rubric. If you go to the next page, you can use a rubric, which will go through, specific criteria and how many points exactly they've received for each item. And remember, when you make a rubric, write it in words that your students understand. I have seen so many rubrics that are I don't understand what feedback you're giving me. It's too technical. I would think it's a manual. I would like it to be more personalized for me as a student. So I think our students would appreciate that if we think about, what their, maybe for my students are ESL students, so I need to think about their language level. I need to think about what goals are really important, what I really want them to do, and put that on the rubric, not all this other stuff that seems great because it was on an online rubric somewhere. You need to think about your specific student group. So you can give them the points, tell them what they did well, and then also leave comments and a recorded message. You can use the LMS by just clicking on record and recording your voice. You can upload an MP4 into there. If you have taken the time to open up your Zoom session and do some sort of screencast, you can do it that way, or we can. We all do this, right? We can all do that. And if you go to the next page, another one that I would suggest is Screencastify, something like this, which is really easy because it's it's something that you can use on your browser. You just click on it and you can screencast and then generate a quick link to your feedback file. And then you can insert that as a hyperlink in their feedback that you've given them, that's personalized, and you've written specific things that they've done well and things that they need to improve on. So this one is a time saver for me, although it does cost money. Another thing that Christy was mentioning is about giving nudges. And one of those kinds of nudges with feedback is actually entering a 0. It's not helpful to students to, if they look at their grade book and they see no score there. If you haven't received a submission, or if we haven't received a submission, we do need to enter our zeros. And we can go to your LMS and to the grade book. This is true for Canvas. And you can message all the students who haven't submitted an assignment. And you can do that right after the due date and just say something, like, I noticed you haven't completed the quiz. Let me know if you need help finding the quiz. I'm happy to help. And give them the opportunity to submit. Maybe something has happened or they couldn't find it, or maybe it's your mess up and you unpublished something. You never know. You need to reach out, or we need to reach out to those students who haven't submitted. And I do get responses, and they're very positive responses. Either a student will want to turn in their assignment, they have an explanation for why they've missed something. And I've even received thank you letters. Thank you for taking the time to let me know that I missed this assignment. This class means a lot to me. I'm very busy right now, and I didn't notice that assignment. Thank you so much. So students really do appreciate it when you let them know if they've missed something, just like anybody would.
Thank you. Okay, to our 4th of 5 tips. And see, we have about 10 minutes left. So this tip is really about, in your 4-walled classroom, when you're in person, you don't stand up there and talk the whole time. You're not the center, it's student-centered. So in our online classes, we have to have well-structured student-to-student interactions for creating community. And for students, we need to give those opportunities for students to collaborate. So if you can share in the chat, how do students interact in your online classes? What do you have them do? What do you kind of do to force that interaction between students? And how do you lay the foundation for a collaborative community of learners? If you can go ahead and share that in the chat. I'm going to continue on just in the interest of time, but please do share in the chat. Breakout rooms, yes, great. And another question is, why is it important for students in the online environment to collaborate? I think it's a no-brainer, right? Conversation practice that you've modeled, so important to model. The I do, we do, now you go do, right? Yes, the gradual release of control. Well, digital icebreakers are great. So even before a class starts, you could have students collaborating and getting to know each other, for example, on a Padlet wall. I send out a Padlet wall of a map, like what you see there, that map of the world. And students can put a pin where they're from originally, a video, a picture. Then within the first week of class, they're putting some information about themselves, maybe on one slide of a shared Google slideshow. You can use what's previously known as Flipgrid. They could submit a short video of themselves introducing. I've even used in Pronto So if you use Reminder or something where they send one photo and then they explain why that photo is important, what it tells about them. Okay, so it's really important to create community. I know you know that. Also very important is upfront right away is to teach netiquette. Not all of our students think about this. What is polite behavior for communicating online? So I won't read that to you, but we need to teach that. We just take it for granted that they're adults and they know this, but you need to set up this respectful give and take that should happen. And if you're teaching ESL, give them the language for that. You know, sometimes we send them to breakout rooms and maybe they just don't even know how to say, how do we begin or something, right? Of course, for Zoom, I don't know if you have this. I have some students just never much participate in the breakout room. So I've learned the hard way that I need to set up the rules for participation. So if they need to step away for a moment from a breakout room, if they could have the courtesy to share in the chat with me and their classmates, that they have to do that. So anyway, really important to set down those non-negotiable sort of policies, right? This is for Katrina. She teaches a lower level ESL, and I really love these rules. Don't interrupt others in the breakout room. Be respectful and let them finish talking. Don't leave the room. Talk about the lesson. Don't ignore the lesson.
And I think what's important about those rules is that they're student generated.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. Very important for students to come up with the norms, because then they'll stick by them more, right? You know, because the majority of you did say that you've participated as a student in an online course before, that discussions are a staple of online asynchronous courses. So in the LMS, it's so important that you give very clear instructions. And as Katrina was talking about before, model the responses, but then not just walk away. So for example, in my courses, I participate in the first few discussions. I am commenting on every single post. After a while, I back off a little bit, but also giving clear date and time of when you want students to post responses, and how are they supposed to respond? Like, do you want just one word answers, bulleted list? I want complete sentences. And then, you know, for that interaction, we have to have them communicating with each other, but they're not always familiar with that and they don't always know what to say. So I give them a list of different ideas, like ask a question if there's something you don't understand, write something new you learned, write something interesting you learned, mention similarities or differences. And then I include a rubric right within the instructions, so students know the expectations. If they do everything asked, it's low stakes. But if they do everything asked, they'll get the full points. If they do more than what's asked, of course, I'm going to give you extra credit. If you're replying to every other classmate, wow, thank you for doing that, doing some of the work for me. Also, breakout rooms. You mentioned this. Well, I really feel that if you're using breakout rooms, as well as any group work in your asynchronous LMS, that you should make students accountable for their work. So having them enter and document what they're discussing on this is a Padlet shelf, or on a Google Doc, or on a Jamboard, just so they have some accountability, because otherwise the conversation may stray, right? And one last thing, even though I know some of you may say, oh no, not group projects. Well, they can work, they can. If you're teaching synchronously in Zoom, give class time. My students did it. If my students can do it, so can yours. So give very clear instructions. Either let students choose the roles for their participation in the group that fit their skills and their interests, or assign as you see different skills of different students, but they can do it. And this is a really, important workplace skill to be able to work as a member of a team. Our last tip, I'll turn it back to you, Katrina.
Okay, so deliberate and well-planned courses, a course design in which media and content is arranged is a way that supports active learning, success, and progression through the course. So students need to have to know what to expect in a lesson. So are you familiar with WIPIA? What is the WIPIA model? Does anybody know that? What does each letter stand for? Okay, so, right, warm up. And then it's what's I, introduction, good. How about PP? Anybody know? Practice, presentation, E. What is that? Evaluation, right? Extension, yeah. Evaluation or extension, application. So that's a model you can use when lesson planning. And one thing you can do is allow students to enter the course through clearly marked buttons. How do they get to the lesson? So you can organize, you can give them some buttons so they know where to find their lesson each week. You want to go to the next one. And then we have there's clear entry points. Again, this is another example of how you can set up buttons depending on the length of your course. And then the WIPIA model, you can start with a warm-up, presentation and practice, the evaluation and application. Just give yourself some headers and make sure you have each part included. You don't have to use the WIPIA model. That's just what Christy and I use. But if this seems right for you, this is something that we can suggest to you. Just think about how you're going to set up your lesson and then do it that way each week so students know what to expect. You can also give them an overview so you can explain to them what they're going to learn, what are the objectives, what are the content specifics, and then give them, if you go to the very next page, I believe, kind of like a summary of what they're going to be watching and reading and then what they're going to do. They really need to know what they need to, what is going to be points earning or something that they need to submit. Christy,
so we
go ahead.
are out of time, but and we would love for you to share, but we are out of time. So we'll just have you walk away reflecting on this based on the content covered in this session. Maybe you found out you're doing something really well. So yay for you, give yourself a pat on the back and congratulations. But maybe, hopefully there's something new you want to try or something that brought a light bulb to your mind that made you think of some improvement you would like to make in your online teaching. And finally, continue learning. We are lifelong, like our students, so we model that. There's still a lot of work to be done to be the best online instructors we can be in adult ed. So hopefully there's something that comes to your mind that you still want to learn about in order to be the best online teacher you can be. So the evaluation form is posted in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to email us, and have a great rest of your school year and a wonderful rest of the CAPE Summit. Thank you, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Katrina. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this point.